Hey friends, welcome back. So I'm pretty stoked because today I finally got a new record player, which means vinyl flips are back on the beat making menu. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're going to open the brand new Angel's Horn AH1, which is a pretty awesome looking budget friendly record player. Then we're gonna head out to a local record store around here, find some vinyl, and then we're gonna flip a beat on the Roland P-6. Timestamps are in the description. Let's get into it. So now that we've got the AH1 built, first thing we need to do is head to a local record store, and I'm gonna go to Mr. C's. They've got some really good budget vinyl. They're only like $3. Let me show you the whole haul we did today. We got 4 vinyls, but we're only gonna use, I think, about 2 today, and then we'll save the other ones for later. So I know I said we were gonna get budget vinyl, but I couldn't help myself. I got this Mort Garson album, Signs of the Zodiac. Now, you may know Mort Garson from the Plantasia album, which is a really good album. I've never heard this one, and I'm assuming there's gonna be some really good Moogs. So we'll probably save this one for later, but I wanted that. Got Contemporary Chamber Group, which could be really cool. There might be some nice strings. Again, another one I think we're gonna hold off on for this episode. Then we get to the last two. Now these are the ones I think we're gonna use today. Music of Hawaii by Henry Mancini. Now Henry Mancini did the Pink Panther soundtrack among many other soundtracks, so I think there's gonna be some really cool stuff on this. So this will probably be where we get our melodic sound from, but who knows, we'll see. There might be some really good drums too. Then lastly, this one, I'm a big fan of alliteration, so Provocative Percussion. That instantly sold me, but more to it was the fact that it's percussion. I think we can get some really good drum sounds, and what I'm going to do is actually sample into the DAW, because in Logic I can actually stem split. So even if this has a whole band, which in reading it looks like it's a whole band, I think we can stem split to just get some drums. Alright, so what I'm looking for when it comes to these samples are any interesting drum fills, one-shots, something I could splice and chop up to create a drum kit. And then when it comes to melodic phrases, I'm just trying to find anything that seems interesting, preferably with not a lot of drums or other accompaniment, but we're sending this into the computer so that we can actually stem split it, so it's not a big deal. And then whatever we find becomes kind of the basis of the track, and then I add more instrumentation around it. And just a quick note, Angel's Horn sent this over for me to check out, but they have no say in this video or the opinions expressed. So quick story time, but listening to these records brought back a lot of memories. My parents, when I was a kid, used to always play records. It's just a core memory listening to music on those vinyl, and the sound of it, those crackles, the warmth of the records are just ingrained into my brain. So having the AH1 in the studio has really rekindled some of that magic, so it's great to be able to incorporate it into my beat making workflow. In this first session with the AH1, I found one of my favorite features was actually the pitch knob, which let me change the pitch instead of having to send in the sample and then change the pitch on the sampler later. I typically like to drop or raise the pitch of any sample. It just gives it a different vibe, and then it just feels different when you start chopping it up. Nice. So we stem split this, and I think we can get some really good one-shots for our drums. All right, so we've got our tracks in the DAW, and now we can do some stem splitting. What we can do is just go to Stem Splitter, and I want all of these splits. You could choose specific ones. I just want to test out, like, trying it with the other ones, so we'll see what happens. Then it takes a second. Now we have every single piece, right? Still sounds the same, but I can do this and just completely isolate the drums. So there are some artifacts. You hear that staticky sound? That's some of the artifacting, but that's totally fine, because what we can do is we can just find some little areas. That right there, that's a perfect snare. So all I'm gonna do is just chop this, and we can refine the chop later. And then right there's another one. So we're just finding little pockets of sounds we like that we can use to embellish. Found a couple of sounds in the Mancini track, namely these drums, which might work in the background. I don't know if we'll use them. And then the main sample here. That should be perfect for a nice chop on the P6. And then a couple of those drum sounds. The ones that we found, I just chopped them up a little more, and we've got perfect snare roll. And then I kept the kick and snare in this part if we want a one shot, but I really want this first part. Let's move these samples into the P6. And if you want to see how I do that, check out the video that pops up on the right corner. First thing I want to do is actually check out this sample. And so if we go to Shift Voice, we can just move the screen over to Chop, and we can set however many slices from the sample that we want. So I'm gonna do 8. So we've made the chop. If we hit keyboard, you can see that some of these keys are lit up now. That's because they're now individual slices. So now that we've got our chops, we're gonna need a beat. And one thing I've been doing with the P6 is actually having dedicated sessions where I just make a ton of drum loops. So we're gonna pull one of those up because it's nice to sometimes have a start point that's already set and then you can just build around that. So let's hear that beat. Okay, that should be perfect. So let's just do some additional drums with the ones we got from the vinyl. Right there, I want that percussion. And so we're gonna go start and end. Those are the start and end points of the total sample. I just want that. And we're gonna turn on lo-fi. Wow, do you hear that ring it adds? Let's keep that though, because we're gonna go into per pad filters. So we need to actually set the type first. So we're gonna go to low pass because I wanna get that nasty sound out. Right there, that should work. And then let's just up the resonance and see what we get if we do that. Okay, that's perfect. So what I'm gonna do is just put this quiet in the mix, and then if we get out of keyboard, here's our step sequencer, so we can just put a step. And then this other one, I want a little snare roll. Just moving the endpoint to see kind of where we wanna get. That should work. Okay, and that I'm thinking we're gonna put right before the second snare. Yeah, that works. I almost want to put one more. I really like that snare roll, but sometimes you put too much and it overdoes it. But let's just put it here as well and just see. Oh, you know what we can do actually? Let's drop the velocity so it's even quieter. So you can't even hear it, but I just want it there to kind of add that ghost note. Let's go to this main sample. I want to see if we turn on lo-fi, you can hear that really gritty sound, right? Hear what it just does, like completely bit crushed if we up it. But if we drop it, just gives a nice little dynamic to it. So we actually need to extend the steps first. So what we're gonna do is go shift play and move over to duplicate, and that will just double whatever you've got. So if we want it to be 64, we would do this twice. I think we can get away with 32. I'll run it and then see. Yeah, I want 64 steps. So we're gonna duplicate that one more time and then we'll record it. Okay, and see how that one part is a bit louder? Let's find that. I think that's on page 2. This right here, we can just go in and change that velocity. Actually, I'm almost thinking, let's experiment with something. Let's go to that micro time, get it a little off. Okay, what I think we'll do, let's see the notes. So we're doing E4, so we'll just put that on this step. Up a little bit. So I'm using velocity to kind of mix the samples because there is quite a bit of volume difference, and we'll drop this velocity. Let's try 80. Yeah, that's better. Okay, now we got the volume. So next, let's get into some filter changes for that main sample, and then we will do some send effects as well. Let's do a high pass filter because I want to see if we can get that little bass trick. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is there's a way you can use a high pass filter. If you up the resonance like crazy, it will give an emphasis to the low end rather than remove the low end. So like if I play this and up it, hear how tinny that sample becomes? But we want to find a part where there's kind of like a bass peak, and then we up the resonance. You can hear it's getting a little more hollow. Hear that? Okay, that's a lot. We don't want that much resonance, but I just wanted to show that it does that. Okay, there's not quite a lot of bass, but it did make it a little thicker. Let's go though into the effects. So to get those effects on, oh, we don't want that. We need to go shift mixer first. Now we're gonna do the send and delay. So you have to turn these on in the mixer and then you can mess with the delay and reverb settings. So I'm gonna up a lot of reverb and then let's actually do a pretty good amount of delay too. Okay, you can already hear it, but that's whatever stock delay settings we have. So let's go. Went shift, delay, reverb. I definitely want sync on. Time, we're gonna go to, let's try dotted eighth. Oh yeah, let's go, there is high and low pass to that. Let's clean that up a little bit. dropping some of the high end will give it a little more warmth in that delay. So we'll do that. So now I want to find, I have this bass sample from I think the first P6 live stream we did. And I'm wondering we can at least get a bass one shot out of it. It almost sounds like it's in key. And almost on time. I think that might work. Let's try chopping it real quick. Let's do, let's say 8 chops. Okay, I think we can make that bass work. Let's make sure quantize is on. I'm gonna play through it a couple more times and then we'll record it. Oh, that works. But let's see what happens if we turn on lo-fi. So it looks like, I actually wasn't sure of this, it looks like the lo-fi setting is individual for each pad, which is awesome. So we can kind of change it. Because I want a little bit so it comes in. Hopefully you're all hearing the bass. It's an acoustic bass, so it should have some high range frequencies. But to fix that, or just to mess with it, let's actually go in and let's put a low cut on it and we'll up the resonance because that should add a little sound in the high range. I'm just thinking if anybody's like watching on a phone or something, I want to make sure that you can hear it. So basically what I'm doing is I'm using the lo-fi to add some grit and high harmonics to this bass sound, and then I'm using a low pass filter with the resonance peaked pretty high to bring out that characteristics. But hopefully you can at least hear some of the bass if you're like on a phone or something. And what I'm also gonna do is add a little bit of reverb to this and maybe even a little delay to that bass. Okay, one other thing that I wanna do really quickly is just alter some of the kicks a little bit. Do like every other. I want to add another snare hit too. It's D4. So let's go to D4 and let's drop the velocity. This is the 4th bar. So I kind of want like, you know, something to bring us back into bar 1. Last thing I want to do, I think this beat's really come together. I want to see if we can get something in the granular engine. And for that, I'm going to need to open my cheat sheet so I can remember all of because there's tons of different settings you can change all on this tiny menu. So what we want to do is find this, which is on Bake F. We're going to go pattern granular, and then we choose that. To get into all of the granular settings, shift voice. And now, unlike the normal samples, you're gonna get a ton of new random letters on your menu. And they're not actually random, but they just look like, you know, someone threw letters to the wall. So we have head position, sets the start time of the grain playback. I want it to start at the start, so we're not gonna mess with that at all. Let's go head speed, so controls the grain playback speeds, negative values go in reverse. This can be kind of fun, so if we just mess with this a little bit, you can see this is the granular sequence, like what it's playing, and you can see how it changes. If we put it to negative, it's going in reverse, and then spread is just gonna add randomization to the grain generation point. So if we up that, you can see it's going all over the place. GRNS is grain density. Let's go lower. Okay, so let's see what we've got. We can also add attack, which I think we're gonna do. Okay, I just wanna mess with that sound a little bit more. Let's stop that, what was it? The spread, that should work. And then let's add some more attack, and then we'll add that delay and reverb. And that should give us something pretty trippy. Let's go into decay, sustain, we can leave that. And we'll leave not as much release. All right, that works. And then some delay and a lot of reverb. Let's see if we can make something work with this granular sound. And we can add the lo-fi, and we can drop that volume. And actually, let's put on a filter too. Let's do a low pass filter. Could even do band pass, that could be interesting. Okay. I think we can actually get something with that. Let's turn on the keyboard. All right, So there you have it. There's just something so fascinating and magical about sampling vinyl. You put it onto a great record player like the AH1, and then you just listen and you hear those crackles and that warmth and the pitch warbles. There's just something about it. And vinyl was a bit before my time, but as I mentioned, like my parents would play it when I was a kid, and there's just something so special about it. And sampling on the AH1 today really brought back some of that magic and rekindled the excitement of being, you know, 5 years old and my parents playing those vinyls. One thing I find with vinyl, coming back to music production, is it really gets me outside of my typical workflow. I'll use different chord progressions and just different sounds than I would normally do if I was writing on the guitar. And if you want to check out the AH1, which I think is a great record player at a pretty good price, the link is in the description. And if you want to get all of these samples that we've used and made today, they are available for channel members at the Solar Sailor tier. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.